My children abandoned me on the highway and never regretted it. My name is Rosa. I'm 68 years old, and this is the story of how my own children took everything my husband left me and abandoned me in the middle of a highway, alone, with no one. If you've ever trusted someone blindly who was supposed to love you, stay until the end. Because what happened that night changed my life forever. It had been 6 months since I buried Manuel, my husband. 40 years of marriage, 40 years of building a life together. Before he died, he left me this house, our savings, and 2 sons who would soon show me exactly who they really were. He gave me this coat. It still smells like him. I keep it like I'm keeping a piece of his embrace. One day, my son Daniel came to the house with his brother Carlos, and Daniel said to me, in that gentle voice he always used when he wanted something, "Mom, we need to talk about some paperwork. It's just to sort out the house, nothing complicated." And I, foolishly trusting my own children, told him, "Of course, son, whatever you say. I don't understand paperwork, but I trust you." Carlos, meanwhile, didn't even look at me. He just smiled, looking at his phone. I didn't understand that smile back then. Now I know exactly what it meant. They sat me down at the dining table, the same one where we'd had family dinners for years. They put some papers in front of me, and Daniel pointed where to sign. I asked him, "Here, son?" And he, without looking me in the eye, said, "Yes, Mom, that's fine. We're almost done." I signed without suspecting a thing. How could I doubt my own children? I had no idea those lines weren't to fix the house. They were to hand over the entire inheritance my Manuel had left me. I later learned that the moment I put the pen down, Carlos quickly stuffed the papers into an envelope and whispered to Daniel, "Done, it's ours now." I was in the same room and heard nothing. That's how well they had planned it. In that moment, without knowing it, I stopped being the owner of the house where I'd built my entire life. A few days later, they told me they were taking me for a drive. I got in the car calmly, not imagining anything. But I noticed we weren't going our usual way. I asked Daniel, "Where are we going? This isn't the way home." And he, without turning to look at me, answered, "It's not your house anymore, Mom. It's ours now. And we don't need you there anymore." I felt the air leave my chest. I said, What are you saying, son? What are you talking about?" But he didn't answer. The car stopped abruptly in the middle of a deserted highway. Carlos opened my door and said, cold, without any emotion, "Get out, Mom, this is how it is." And there, in the middle of nowhere, without a soul in sight, the 2 men I raised with my own hands left me alone. Me, the woman who gave them life. I stood there, watching the car grow smaller on the horizon, and all I could say, through tears, was, "Why, Manuel? Why did our own children do this to us?" Hours went by. The midday sun gave way to afternoon, and the afternoon to an orange sky that slowly faded. I didn't move from that spot. I had nowhere to go, no one to call. I only had this coat, and the memory of a man who would have protected me with his life if he were still here. I looked up at the sky and spoke as if he could hear me. "Manuel, if you could see what your sons did to me." A car passed, then another. No one stopped, no one asked. The world kept moving while I, abandoned by my own children, waited without even knowing what I was waiting for. It was almost night when I saw headlights approaching. The car stopped and a woman got out. She came over carefully and asked me, "Ma'am, are you all right? What are you doing out here alone at this hour?" I barely had the voice to speak, but I told her, "My children, my own children left me here. They made me sign some papers, and then they abandoned me." She stood there in shock for a moment. Then she helped me up with a gentleness I hadn't felt in a long time and said, "Come with me. You're not alone anymore. I'm going to take care of this." I didn't know it yet, but that night, fate had placed me on the path of the person who would change everything. That woman's name was Elena, and as she listened to me carefully, writing down everything I told her, she said something I will never forget. "Mrs. Rosa, I am a judge in this city. What your sons did to you isn't just a family betrayal. It's a crime, breach of trust, fraud, and abandonment of a vulnerable person." I felt a glimmer of hope I hadn't felt in days. I asked her, "So is there something that can be done?" And she answered with a firmness that gave me strength. "There's a lot that can be done, and it will be done." For the first time since I buried Manuel, I felt like I wasn't completely alone in the world. The process was quick, the evidence overwhelming. My own testimony was devastating even for me, because I had to relive every word, every gesture, every lie. The signature they tricked me into giving was nullified, and justice this time was not late. During the hearing, Carlos shouted desperately, "That inheritance is ours. It's ours by right." And Daniel, furious, without a trace of remorse, yelled at me, "This isn't over, Mom." I looked at them, not with hatred, but with a very deep sadness. I shook my head and thought, not one apology, not a single "I'm sorry, Mom." They only wanted what was never theirs to begin with. There was no remorse, only greed until the very last second. And because of that greed, they lost everything: the inheritance, their freedom, and the only mother they had left. I decided to donate most of that inheritance to a home for elderly people who, like me that night, have no one. Because I understood better than anyone what it feels like to be alone in the world. And I chose to turn my pain into a shelter for others. Manuel, I didn't let the pain turn me into a bitter person. I turned it into love for those who need it most. And that is the one thing no one can ever take away from me.